Greetings, humans, and everything in between. How's it going, folks? I'm Dustin Cormier, and you are watching How to Rock Astrology. Today, we are going to talk about what it's like when you have Sun in Virgo and Mars in Virgo. Hopefully not directly conjunct, because that creates a combustion effect that is worse for wear on the Mars, although it is not so crazy for the Sun. Good for the Sun, but bad for the Mars, which is ultimately bad for the Sun, because the Sun always uses Mars to get what it needs, what it wants, and to hold its energy in order to manifest its ambition. If you're burning out Mars, it's not a good thing. Let's talk about it. Before we do, if you want to know a little bit more about me, I do this every time. Blah, 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 blah. If you want to know a little bit more about Dustin Cormier, feel free to visit my website, dustincormier.net, where you can read my poetry book that's full of psychedelic erotica. Here's a little glimpse of my chart, just so you can see who it is that is giving you this info. Welcome. I am a self-professed Vedic astrologer, steeped in the roots of like Western astrology, and I try to bring what I've found through. I've been a student of RYAN KURCZAK'S for a long time. And I'm taking the best of the knowledge that I've gained from RYAN KURCZAK and bringing it to the Western world, the Western sphere, to talk about it, to tell the West what they're missing in the richness of the Vedic tradition. I digress. You're going to hear a little bit of it whenever I talk about it in these videos. Sun in Virgo, Mars in Virgo. As I said, this is going a huge key as to, like, this could really damage the Mars here, because Mars is very close to Cancer. This is actually one of the least affluent, one of the worst places for Mars. Of course, you got to understand that any bad placement is just more glory to be gained by flipping the cards of fate on their butt and using them constructively with what you've been given. Everything happens for a reason, and if you have that placement, Mars in Virgo, especially Mars conjunct, like really combusted by the Sun, you just got to learn what your energy is, learn how to deal with it, and no matter what, you've been given these cards, so you'll have some kind of glory in however you play them. Just like somebody who's been given a grandiose chart with all the best and easiest things, you know, it's that much like, it's like, oh great, of course you did well with it, duh, right? Cosmic judgment is a funny sort of thing, because no matter what you are, no matter what you do with what you are, it was meant to happen, it was meant to be. Don't think about it too hard, my perfectionist Virgo friend, although I'm sure that might be a tricky thing for you to hear. Sun in Virgo, Mars in Virgo. Well, if you want to read a little bit about what Mars in Virgo is all about, feel free to listen to the start of this series where we talk specifically about Mars in Virgo. I've got like a 27-minute video about it that you should probably check out. But I digress. So what's Mars in Virgo all about? Well, it's debilitated kind of for two reasons. Number one is that it's close to Cancer. This gives it it's like Mars is a hot planet, and it melts, it overheats under the influence of being close to the summer solstice vibe of Cancer, right? Cancer has the summer solstice vibe. It's the heat of the hottest part of the day, the hottest part of the year. And it does more bad for Mars in particular than good. It's like Mars is a hot planet, but it wants a cold, calculated reality to fit itself through, in the sense of Capricorn. When Mars is in Capricorn, it has a sense of what is a waste of its energy, and it develops a relationship with its body, with its realistic bodily limits. It develops proper rhythms that are objective It can take itself out of its emotional reactions and energies and see what is really most constructive to the most highest development of the personality. When Mars is closer to Cancer, in this case, it's very close to, in close proximity to Cancer. Remember, debilitation, just because if you look in a Western astrology book and it says Mars is debilitated in Cancer, you might be inclined to think, oh good, that's not where my Mars is. But it's still in close proximity to Cancer here, which means that Mars in Virgo has a hard time learning what would make it consistently effective, because it's energized by a certain changeability, by a certain mutability. And what this mutability is a desire to keep planning and refining its plan. Because it's always trying to perfectly refine its plan, it never really, it spends so much time on that it never sees, it often doesn't see its plans come to fruition. It's like, it's an indecision. Too many decisions make to no decision for Mars and Virgo. And when that happens, they lose the capacity to feel engaged. They lose the sense of, it's like a person who's been given the status of warrior, thinking, okay, what do I want to be? Do I want to be a swordsman? Do I want to be an archer? Do I want to be a cannonball thrower with like a group of people? Pick one so that you can start being a warrior. Well, Mars in Virgo says, I don't know which one I want to pick, so I'm going to wait on this warrior thing. And then they never really get the sense to cultivate the engineering and the in-the-moment intelligence that Mars is supposed to have. Although they can be good, meticulous planners, because Mars is here in Virgo, it's just oversensitive. Especially if the Sun is conjunct Mars here, that can, like, if it's combust within like 8 degrees, this can really do some damage to the Mars here, where they get super agitated. There's a pressure from authorities and from the spirit, from the father, to be ready when life throws a curveball at you. And their inclination will be to do that through Sun in Virgo, which is like making plans, making a reliable, consistent, fixed skill that's also mutable. They want to have a solid skill that can be reliable when life changes and adapts. That's Sun in Virgo. The Mars here will feel a deep pressure to have that, but they won't know where to put it, and they will have a hard time with their physical energy. These are the kind of things that can really obstruct the Mars in combustion. Now let's talk about this, just this sign in general, without thinking of combustion, without thinking of that 8-degree orb. Whether your Sun is combust or whether it's not combusting the Mars. Let's talk about Sun in Virgo, Mars in Virgo. The Sun is the king of the chart. And it thinks about, how do I use all my resources, all of my friends, everything I have at my disposal? What is going to enact my spirit for the long haul? And it kind of wastes, it's getting very close to Libra here. Not only is the Sun right next door to its debilitation point, which is Libra, but Mars is also quite close to its debilitation point, which is Cancer. So it's two close to debilitation things happening here. The Sun will be delighted by Mars because it's in the same sign as Mars in a certain way. So the Sun really stands its foot on top of Mars. And energy is deeply spilt. Body energy, physical capacity is sacrificed on the altar of being reliable at a job that the Sun in Virgo probably manages. It's probably like a manager, probably some kind of entrepreneur, possibly, but more likely like someone who runs like a mechanic shop or a dental practice or some kind of practice that brings materials for people to use, refining them, fine leathers, fine jewelry, fine something, or a service, usually some kind of service or skill, that people will come to them and they will have their doors open 9 to 5, saying, this is my practice, and they will probably love to do that. Mars, for everybody, is not just this reliable skill getter, but here there's such a emphasis. All the eggs are put in the basket of this person's job and managerial enterprise and inspirations, to the point where it overclouds the it's like this person identifies so deeply with their job that they'll do good at that job, but your job and your career and what you have built as a job, as an occupation, shouldn't overshadow everything that you are as a human being. Here, the Mars factor, the ability to find other ways of expanding this business, finding love, it might be hard for you to really passionately have the sex drive to go out and find a lover that will make your life more interesting, because you might not think it's that important. You're probably a workaholic with this kind of combination. I shouldn't say probably, excuse me, but the tendency is there to think more about your utility than your enjoyment, which is kind of odd, because the Sun in Virgo does enjoy games and enjoyment. It wants to be practical and to think practically about things and to kind of enjoy doing it. At the sexual level, this is somebody, ironically, who is like, keeps their sexuality at bay and even transmutes it angrily, frustratingly, into the things that they want to do. It's like, you could save up a sexual release for your partner, but instead you grit your teeth and you're like, honey, somebody just came into the shop at 4:30, even though I close at 5, and it's a 2-hour job, and I'm going to do it because and you might even enjoy that. You might transmute your sexuality, and you might not even grit your teeth on that moment. You might say, baby, I got an opportunity for a job, and this thing that I'm going to do. And then you come home, and you might be tired, and it's like, oh, baby, how about we just, save this whole sexual thing for when I'm really in the mood? Which is, again, sex is such a primal part of life, and this is how this person's sex libido energy can be lifted out from under their feet in a certain way. But when they do get in the mood, they might even think scripturally, like, sorry, baby, I don't know when your moon sign is, I don't know when you're lusty, but, I am free on Saturday. And when it's Saturday, when it's 8 p.m., we got nothing else going on, it's business time. I'm going to roll up my sleeves and we're going to get down to some hard work. That's how this person might relate their sexual libido drive, which is dusty and dry in a certain way. But for those who enjoy that reliability and who have a lot of Earth in their own chart, especially if they've got Venus in Virgo or something like that, or Venus conjunct Mercury, or something where the juiciness revolves around the structure and scripture of this person, it can be enjoyed. Everything can be enjoyed by somebody. You just got to find the right person who jives with it, I digress. Let's talk a little bit. That was my own rendition of Sun in Virgo, Mars in Virgo. Let's read a little bit about erotic astrology and what Phyllis Vega has to say about Sun in Virgo, Mars and Virgo. Not one to leap into a romantic union with reckless abandon. You get to know a potential lover first, preferably through sharing interests outside the boudoir. You don't let someone typically into your sexual reality until you've gained a trust with them and a familiarity and a sentimental shared interests, evidential shared interests. A confirmed workaholic, you may appear less interested in sex and romance than you actually are. However, once you stop overanalyzing every move you make and start heeding the promptings of your feelings and emotions, you are an exceptionally passionate and considerate partner. In the privacy of the bedroom, the sensual side of your nature comes to the forefront. You have plenty of sexual curiosity, and you are always seeking new ways to excite and pleasure your mate. When you do get to that place, when you start heating, it's almost like the sun and the Mars are at a mental level, and the promptings, the libidinal urge might be there, and you will think meticulously about it. Oh, that's a sexual urge. Wow, I felt that before. I should probably put that somewhere. In this deadpan sort of way. It's like, this isn't useful to me right now. Is this what this person can kind of say? But when you keep sublimating it into the wrong places, a certain lustful sexuality, a sexual virile energy begins to build up. And I mean, this could be a person who just like masturbates a lot just to kind of get it out of the way. So maybe that won't build up physically, but in like a sentimental, emotional way, you can build up this desire to just obliterate your tense hold that you often have in your primal urges. When someone gives you the opportunity to, you just burst it's like trying to hold a dense bunch of elastic bands together, and you put on that one tense elastic band and the whole thing goes, right? Especially when it comes to an emotional connection and sentimental affections through the act of lovemaking. That's more of what the person is interested in. Especially they want this sexual virile energy to be to have utility. It's Virgo. Is it going to be useful? And it will feel useful to this person if it's to a committed partner who they know has shared interests in even financial, fiscal intelligence and things that seem to be of value to you. Once you see a person has some kind of value, whether it's financially, whether it's like also emotionally, perhaps the ability to raise children or to have an intelligent turn of mind. These are all things that you find valuable, and when you see that value in someone, that's the kind of thing that you'll start building this relationship with them, and you'll feel like it's a useful place to put this virile Mars energy. And when you feel that it's useful, you're like, oh, I'm gonna fucking put slot A into rod A into slot B like you wouldn't believe. That's the best way for me to describe it. So, I hope that was juicy. I hope that was useful. And I hope that you feel ever so turned on by this reading. I don't know. I'm Dustin Cormier, folks. That was How to Rock Astrology. That was Sun in Virgo, Mars in Virgo. I love doing these readings for you guys. I'd love to see if I'm hitting the mark for you. Please let me know in the comments or whatever else, what have you. Because I love to do this stuff, and the more feedback I get. Like I said, I got Jupiter and Venus in Virgo, so I always love the feedback. Hit me with it. Thanks for watching, folks. I'll see you on the next one.